You lie awake at night feeling that familiar ache of frustration and loneliness. You replay interactions from your day or your past relationships and wonder, what am I doing wrong? I've been nothing but nice. You've always tried to be the good guy. The one who listens attentively, who never raises his voice, who would bend over backwards to make her happy. Yet here you are, disoriented, unfulfilled, maybe even heartbroken. Despite all your efforts to be the perfect gentleman, you feel invisible, unappreciated, and trapped in a cycle that never seems to reward you. You might even quietly resent the world, thinking to yourself that nice guys finish last. Take a deep breath. This feeling, this mix of sadness, confusion, and simmering resentment, is more common than you might think. If this resonates with you, you might be caught in what we call the nice guy trap, a set of behaviors and beliefs that seem kind and noble on the surface, but underneath, they hide insecurity and lead to pain. In this deep dive, we'll explore 5 signs that you might be acting like a too nice guy. These aren't meant to shame you, not at all. Rather, they're here to shine a light on patterns that could be holding you back from the love and fulfillment you deserve. And by the end, you'll know you're not alone, and that there's a way out of the trap. A way to keep your kindness and emotional depth while also standing in your own power. Do you routinely put everyone else's needs ahead of your own, hoping that by being indispensable, you'll earn love and approval? This is the classic people-pleasing behavior that defines the too nice guy. You say yes to every request, even when you're exhausted. You offer help before anyone even asks. You may even cancel your own plans at the drop of a hat because a friend or a love interest might need you. In your mind, being available and agreeable seems like the surest path to being valued. After all, you've learned that a good man is always there for others, right? I had a client, Alex was the guy who would drive a coworker home an hour out of his way, even if it meant he'd miss his own dinner. He'd agree to dog sit for neighbors on weekends he desperately needed rest. With the women he dated, he never expressed a preference for what he wanted to do. He'd say, "Whatever makes you happy, I'm good with it." At first glance, Alex seemed like the ideal nice guy, always considerate and selfless. But inside, Alex felt exhausted and overlooked. The more he gave, the less others seemed to respect his time. In one instance, he helped a woman he was interested in by repairing her leaky faucet and proofreading her work presentation. She thanked him, of course, but then went on a weekend trip with another man. Alex was devastated. He thought his constant willingness to help would show her what a great partner he'd make. Instead, he just felt used. The painful truth is that people-pleasing often backfires. When you never say no and have no boundaries, you inadvertently teach others that your own needs don't matter. Some will consciously or unconsciously take advantage of your generosity. Even well-meaning people might start to overlook your sacrifices, because you never complain. You end up running on empty, and resentment builds quietly inside you. Never saying no might make you feel important and needed in the moment, but it can lead to feelings of resentment over time. You might already sense this. Those moments when you're smiling on the outside, saying, "Sure, I can do it," while inside you're screaming, "I really don't want to." What are you compensating for with this behavior? Often, it's a deep fear of rejection or abandonment. You may believe that if you aren't always useful, agreeable, or perfectly accommodating, people will leave you. This belief can come from childhood. Perhaps you had a parent whose love felt conditional on your being good, or you survived a volatile home by becoming the peacekeeper. Psychologist Dr. Robert Glover, who wrote No More Mr. Nice Guy, found that many so-called nice guys grew up with hardship or emotional neglect, and coped by trying to be the ideal son who never causes trouble. As a boy, being nice might have been how you earned praise or avoided conflict. Now as an adult, that pattern sticks. You overextend yourself to take care of others' emotions, because deep down you're anxious that if you don't, you'll be unloved or criticized. Unfortunately, by trying to be loved through self-sacrifice, you achieve the opposite. You wind up overlooked at best, or exploited at worst. In Alex's case, his constant availability actually signaled to others that his time wasn't valuable, because he himself didn't value it. He learned the hard way that having no boundaries meant people kept asking for more, and rarely reciprocated. As one expert put it, people with nice guy tendencies often struggle to put themselves first, and their constant availability often stems from guilt or fear of letting someone down. If any of this rings true for you, take heart. Recognizing this pattern is the first step to changing it. Another hallmark of the too nice guy trap is that you don't allow yourself to be fully authentic in relationships. You might think, If I share what I really feel or want, I'll upset someone. Better to just keep it to myself. That's why you smile and nod in agreement. Even when your girlfriend says something that bothers you, you dodge any topic that might lead to disagreement. You brush off your own needs with, "It's fine, I don't really mind," when inside you do mind, very much so. In short, you avoid conflict at all costs and present an image of the easygoing, always positive nice guy. While harmony is wonderful, constant conflict avoidance comes at a steep price. When you routinely suppress your own opinions and feelings, you effectively erase yourself from the relationship. She never gets to truly know you. Only the polite facade you put up. This prevents genuine intimacy and trust. I should note that many good guys keep their opinions to themselves so as not to appear vulnerable and scare her away. But this prevents them from developing deeper relationships and emotional intimacy. In other words, by never showing anything that might rock the boat, you inadvertently keep your relationships shallow or one-sided. You might end up thinking, "I do everything to make her happy, yet I feel unseen and misunderstood." That's because you haven't allowed her to see you, only the mask of niceness. Consider Javier, another composite client example. Javier's girlfriend would occasionally make comments that hurt him, like joking about his low salary in front of friends. Javier would laugh it off to avoid an argument, telling himself, "She didn't really mean it." When she canceled plans last minute or flirted with other guys to get attention, Javier swallowed his jealousy and said nothing, afraid to appear insecure or controlling. He believed that being the easygoing boyfriend was the high road, that if he showed any anger or disappointment, she would think he wasn't nice enough or even leave him. Over time, though, these grievances piled up in Javier's heart like dry kindling. One day, a relatively minor comment made him explode in anger. All the suppressed feelings came out in an ugly flood. His girlfriend was shocked. She had never seen Javier express anything but calm agreement. In the end, they broke up. Not because Javier wasn't nice, but because she never knew where he really stood until it was too late, and he himself had reached a breaking point. What was Javier's niceness compensating for? Fear of rejection, certainly. Like many men with this pattern, he was fearing rejection, so he avoided rocking the boat, conflict, or expressing unpleasant emotions. He may have also learned early on that expressing anger or needs led to punishment or withdrawal of love, so he became a conflict avoider to stay safe. Additionally, a lot of nice guys have an underlying belief that, if I always agree and do things right, people will like me. This was actually noted as a common dysfunctional thought from childhood in Dr. Glover's research. So you might be operating on the perfectionistic idea that you must always be the good boy to be worthy of love, never upset anyone, never have flaws or strong needs. Thus, you hide anything that might be judged as bad or too much. However, the tragedy is that by hiding your true self, you also hide your strengths, your passions, and your humanity. Real relationships require the occasional honest disagreement or difficult conversation. If you're afraid to ever say, "Hey, that hurt my feelings," or, "Actually, I'd rather do this other thing," then you end up living a lie. Over time, the relationship may fail because it lacked a foundation of authenticity. Or worse, you stay in an unsatisfying situation far too long because you've convinced yourself that any relationship, even one where you must mute yourself, is better than none. Remember, a genuinely kind partner is not a doormat. True kindness includes being honest and respecting yourself, not just pleasing the other person. If you see yourself in this sign, try to notice the next time you automatically say, "I'm okay with whatever," when you're really not. That impulse to instantly smooth things over is a clue that you're acting out of fear. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but learning to voice your needs or opinions, even small ones, is crucial. Ironically, many partners respect and love you more when you show you have a backbone and a true self. By always hiding your truth, you deny them the chance to meet the real you, and you deny yourself the experience of being loved for who you really are, imperfections and all. This sign cuts to the heart of the nice guy trap. Being nice not just for its own sake, but because you expect something in return, usually affection, love, sex, or loyalty. You might not state these expectations out loud, in fact, you probably never do, but you hold them quietly, almost like a secret contract. Psychologists actually have a term for this: covert contracts. It's an unwritten rule you follow internally. If I do X for her, then she should do Y for me. For example, if I listen to all her problems and always support her, she should appreciate me and never leave. Or, if I pay for a nice dinner, I deserve affection in return. You might believe as Dr. Glover describes, that meeting other people's needs without them having to ask means they'll meet your needs without you having to ask. And perhaps the most pervasive covert contract of all, be a good guy and everyone will love you, especially the woman you desire. The nice guy syndrome often runs on this transactional belief system. You're not consciously trying to manipulate. In fact, you pride yourself on being giving and not like those other guys. But deep down, you are operating on a quid pro quo mindset. In your mind, your self-sacrifice and niceness are investments, and one day they're supposed to pay off. This might come from being taught that life is fair to good people, or from movies where the sweet, helpful guy eventually wins the girl. Let me illustrate with Raj's story. Raj had been friends with a woman named Sarah for months. He was her rock. At any hour, he'd pick up the phone if she needed to vent. He fixed her computer when it crashed, complimented her often, even remembered her favorite coffee. Raj secretly had feelings for Sarah, but he never told her directly. He assumed that surely she must see how devoted he is. In fact, he thought it was obvious that he was effectively courting her through kindness. He believed that eventually, Sarah would realize a true prince was by her side all along. When Sarah started dating another man, Raj was crushed. Even worse, he was angry. He lashed out at Sarah, saying it was unfair, that he had been there for her all this time, and she owed him. This scenario is painfully common. Raj had written a covert contract in his head that, if I'm always there for Sarah and treat her like a queen, she will reciprocate with romantic love. Sarah, however, was unaware of this unspoken deal. From her perspective, Raj was a great friend. She didn't ask him to do all those things. He offered. In the end, both felt hurt. Raj felt betrayed and friend-zoned, while Sarah felt guilty and confused, sensing that all those nice gestures carried unspoken expectations she hadn't agreed to. The backfire here is clear. When kindness is not truly free, it often fails to lead to the love or appreciation you want, and instead, leads to misunderstandings and resentment. One writer described it aptly. These silent expectations of a covert contract are like an unseen currency in relationships, turning what should be acts of love into transactions. The person on the other end often has no idea there was an exchange expected, so they inevitably break the contract, leaving the nice guy feeling cheated. As Dr. Glover notes, nice guys are convinced their contracts should work, so when others don't fulfill the unspoken bargain, the nice guy feels utterly helpless and resentful. What underlying issues fuel this behavior? Typically, it's stemming from a belief of unworthiness and insecurity. You might subconsciously feel you aren't lovable for who you are, so you must earn love or friendship by being extra nice. It can also come from a place of scarcity, a fear that you'll never get what you need unless you buy it with good deeds. In some cases, there's also entitlement buried under the niceness. A belief that if you fulfill your end of the bargain, being the ideal nice guy, the universe or that person owes you happiness. This was highlighted in a feminist analysis of the phenomenon, which described some nice guys as believing they are entitled to romantic or sexual attention because of their niceness. That entitlement, even if quiet, can sour your interactions. People can feel when kindness has strings attached. It feels hollow or pressuring. If you catch yourself thinking along the lines of, "I've done so much, when will I get my reward?" take a step back. This sign is a wake-up call that true kindness doesn't work like a vending machine. Real healthy relationships run on open communication and mutual agreement, not unspoken contracts. It's okay to want things, love, affection, respect, but you need to voice those needs and set boundaries, rather than trying to stealthily nice your way into getting them. In the long run, you'll gain far more respect by being upfront and genuine, even if it risks hearing a no or facing disappointment, than by quietly keeping score in a game the other person doesn't even know they're playing. One of the clearest signs that you've fallen into the nice guy trap is that you carry around a lot of pent-up resentment. Perhaps you don't show it overtly. You still smile, still say no problem, when your boss asks you last minute to work the weekend or when your friend cancels on you for the third time. But inside, there's a bitterness brewing. You might fantasize that someday people will realize how much you put up with. You might vent anonymously online about how women only want jerks, or how unfair it is that you do everything for others and get so little back. If you connect with that, it's a big red flag. Genuine nice behavior doesn't come with that kind of emotional poison. Resentment is a byproduct of giving with expectations and neglecting yourself. In my practice, I've seen how this resentment can build to a dangerous tipping point. Think of it like a bank account of anger. Each time you bite your tongue, each time you say yes when you mean no, Each unspoken covert contract that gets broken, a coin of resentment drops into the jar. Over years, that jar fills up. Eventually, it shatters. Sometimes the nice guy erupts in rage seemingly out of nowhere, or sinks into depressive bitterness that no one ever cares about me. A key insight here is that many nice guys actually view themselves as victims of others' mistreatment, without recognizing how they participated in the dynamic by never expressing their needs or limits. Psychologists have noted that nice guys often end up blaming others and feeling like helpless victims, which only reinforces their sense of powerlessness. It's a vicious cycle. The more you see yourself as a taken-for-granted victim, the more you continue the same nice but unassertive behavior, and the cycle repeats. Let's revisit Alex and Raj from our earlier stories and introduce how this resentment manifested for them. Alex, the perpetual people-pleaser, eventually started to notice that his friends only called when they needed a favor. One night, exhausted and feeling ill, he still helped a friend move apartments. The next week, when Alex subtly hinted he could use some help assembling furniture in his own place, that friend was too busy. Alex's hand tightened around his phone. He was furious, but murmured, "No worries, maybe another time." After hanging up, Alex felt a wave of anger and self-pity. Here I am, always the helpful one. And when I need one thing, no one's there. It's not fair. That refrain, "It's not fair," is the anthem of the resentful nice guy. I gently pointed out to Alex that he'd never actually directly asked this friend for help, or let him know how drained he was. Alex was giving from an empty cup and expecting others to notice and refill it. But they didn't, because he never let his need be known until it came out as passive-aggressive comments. Raj, from Sign 3, displayed his resentment even more bluntly when he angrily confronted Sarah for dating someone else. All the polite veneer dropped, and years of unmet expectations spewed out. In that moment, Sarah saw the anger behind his smile for the first time. It was confusing and scary for her, and deeply sad for Raj, because he realized too late that all those smoldering feelings were pushing away the very person he wanted to be closer to. The bottom line is that resentment is toxic. It poisons you from the inside and seeps into your relationships. It often leads to what one article called uncomfortable pressure on partners or friends. Even if you think you're hiding it, resentment can leak out in sarcastic remarks, a palpable sadness, or sudden outbursts. And when the people in your life feel that undercurrent of anger or martyrdom, they may withdraw or become defensive, which only confirms your belief that you're unappreciated. So what is this resentment compensating for? Often, it masks a deep well of hurt and fear. The hurt of feeling unlovable unless you're useful, the fear that you'll always be overlooked. It might also be covering shame. Perhaps you feel ashamed for even having needs or anger, so you don't express it until it boils over. Many nice guys carry a toxic shame from childhood that whispers, "I'm not good enough as I am," which is why they try so hard to be good for others. But when that strategy doesn't yield the unconditional love they crave, they feel double failure. I did everything right and still nobody loves me fully. This is a heavy, painful place to be in. If you're there right now, seething quietly at the world's ingratitude, I want you to know I understand. It's not that you're a bad person for feeling angry. It's that your strategy for getting love has been betraying you. Recognizing resentment as a sign means it's time to change that strategy. You deserve relationships where you don't have to earn every drop of affection and where you don't feel like a victim of your own kindness. Moving forward, we'll talk about healthier ways to get your needs met. But there's one more major sign to cover, and it's a big one that often co-occurs with all of the above. How being too nice can actually make you come across as needy or insecure, undermining the very connections you seek. Deep down, a too nice guy is often terrified of being abandoned or alone. Because you base so much of your self-worth on others' approval, the thought of losing that approval, of someone leaving you, can feel catastrophic. This fear can manifest as clinginess or neediness, behaviors where you're over-attentive, overly accommodating, and maybe even smothering to the people you care about. You might not realize it, but constantly needing reassurance or being always available at a moment's notice can come off as an anxious attachment, which many people experience as pressure. Let's paint a picture. Mike just started dating someone he really likes. He wants to do everything right so she knows what a great boyfriend he is. He replies to her texts within seconds. If she doesn't respond for a while, he starts getting anxious, maybe sending a follow-up question mark or a, "Hey, everything okay?" He clears his schedule to see her whenever she's free, even if it's last minute. He gives up his regular guys' night, stops going to the gym, and basically orients his entire life around her availability. Whenever she seems a bit quiet or says she's busy, Mike panics internally and doubles down on his niceness, sending her gifts, lavish compliments, whatever might win back her attention. From Mike's perspective, he's being the best boyfriend he can be, showering her with devotion. But from her perspective, something feels off. His constant checking in reads as insecurity. His lack of independent life makes her feel like he's too dependent on her. She might start to feel suffocated, or worry that any minor step back on her part will shatter him. In the end, she tells Mike she needs space. Mike is heartbroken. His worst fear comes true. She leaves. And his takeaway, unfortunately, might be, I guess I wasn't nice enough, or I did something wrong. In reality, he was too nice in a clingy way. And it backfired. Many men in the nice guy trap fall into this pattern, especially if they have an anxious attachment style or low self-esteem. They worry a lot about losing someone they care about, and they can overcompensate by being needy. Can be a turn-off in dating relationships. It's a sad irony. The more you fear losing someone and try to hold on tightly, the more likely you push them away. No one wants to feel they are responsible for 100% of another adult's happiness. A healthy partner wants to be part of your life, not all of it. So if you're constantly available and have zero boundaries or separate interests, it doesn't come across as loving. It comes across as desperate. Clinginess is really a form of control born from fear. It says, if I'm always right there and doing everything, I can prevent them from leaving or disappointing me. Unfortunately, life and relationships don't work that way. We cannot control others by our good deeds or constant presence. In fact, being overly nice and available often signals low confidence. As relationship coach Carmen Smith put it, a genuinely nice guy will not be afraid to be their authentic self. They know if they don't please themselves, they will resent those that want to change him. In other words, a confident man has his own life and identity. He doesn't need to latch onto a partner like a life raft. If you find yourself latching on, it might be time to look inward. Are you afraid that if you give someone space, or if you assert your own plans, they'll abandon you? That fear might be rooted in earlier experiences. Perhaps an inconsistent parent, or a past breakup that blindsided you. It's important to recognize that this fear is driving you to behave in ways that actually create the outcome you fear. The good news is that you can address this. It might involve building up your own interests, friendships, especially with other men, as weird as that sounds. Having a solid group of buddies or a support system can ease the pressure on romantic relationships. And learning to tolerate a bit of uncertainty. If she hasn't texted back for an hour, it doesn't mean she's leaving you. If she's got other plans, it doesn't mean you're not important. A healthy relationship actually breathes. Each person needs some air and their own space at times. By relinquishing the urge to constantly monitor and please, you paradoxically become more attractive and lovable, because you're showing self-respect and confidence. If you recognize this clingy streak in yourself, don't label yourself a failure. See it as a sign that you deeply care and have a big heart. But that heart needs some boundaries and self-soothing skills to not overwhelm others. It's not easy to admit to ourselves that we might be contributing to our own unhappiness in relationships. You might be thinking, so I'm doing all of this wrong? Am I just doomed to be alone or get walked over? Absolutely not. The fact that you see yourself in these patterns is a positive sign. It means you have the self-awareness to change course. The two nice guy behaviors are learned, which means new, healthier behaviors can be learned too. You can get out of the trap. The goal is not to turn you into a cruel or insensitive person. And I know some nice guys fear that, like if they stop being nice, they'll have to swing to the opposite extreme. Not at all. In fact, the best antidote to nice guy syndrome is to become a man who is both kind and strong. Think of it this way. You want to keep the genuine kindness, generosity, and empathy that come naturally to you. Those are wonderful qualities that give you an edge in forming loving relationships. But you want to let go of the fear-driven niceness, the part of you that people pleases, hides your needs, and gives with strings attached. So what does breaking free look like? It starts with what we've done here, identifying the patterns and the feelings beneath them. Next, it requires cultivating a sense of self-worth that isn't dependent on others' approval. As one psychologist put it, one who becomes secure within, recognizing his unique strengths, is freed from needy dependence on another's approval. You might consider taking time to pursue your own passions, or even spending some time single to learn how to fulfill your own needs. It might also involve seeking therapy or coaching, especially if childhood wounds are at play, and often they are. A crucial step is learning to set boundaries and say no when you need to. Start small. If you're tired, it's okay to skip doing that extra favor. Notice that the world doesn't end when you respect your own limits. In fact, people may start respecting you more. Also, practice honesty in your communication. Express your opinions kindly and share your feelings in real time instead of bottling them up. Remember the list of covert contracts? Tear them up. Instead of assuming others should know what you need, ask for what you need directly. Yes, it feels vulnerable, but it's far more effective and fair. Some will say no, and that's okay. You will survive a no, and you'll have more respect for yourself for having asked than if you stayed silently disappointed. Work on building a life that's fulfilling with or without a partner. Pursue career goals, hobbies, friendships, health. Not only do these make you a more well-rounded and attractive person, they also give you confidence that you are capable and whole on your own. That confidence is kryptonite to the old nice guy mentality. It allows you to give love freely, because you're not giving from a place of desperate need. When you do something kind, do it because it's truly who you want to be, not because you're hoping for a payoff. And paradoxically, when kindness comes from a place of strength rather than need, it often is rewarded with genuine appreciation, love, and respect, because people can sense the difference. As one marriage therapist explained, authentic nice guys aren't afraid to be themselves and won't bend over backwards just to please. They please from the heart and maintain self-respect. That is the sweet spot we're aiming for. Finally, be patient and compassionate with yourself. These patterns took years to form. They won't vanish overnight. You might catch yourself falling back into people-pleasing or biting your tongue and later think, I did it again. That's okay. Change is a gradual process of practicing new behaviors. Celebrate small wins. The day you speak up and say, actually, I'd rather go to this restaurant, and your date doesn't storm off. Applaud yourself. The time you tell a friend, I can't help you this weekend, I've got other plans, and they simply say, all right, no problem. Recognize that the fear was worse than reality. These experiences will retrain your brain to see that being authentic and assertive won't make the people who truly care for you run away. It will make your connections healthier. By now, you should see that being a too nice guy isn't really about kindness at its core. It's about fear, shame, and false beliefs wrapped up in the guise of kindness. The opposite of a too nice guy is not a jerk. It's an authentic, confident man who is capable of kindness with no agenda. That's who you're meant to be. That's who you already are, under the layers of conditioning. So, as you step out of this trap, remember, you deserve real, nourishing love and respect, not because you earned it by sacrificing yourself, but just because you are you. A man with a good heart and a backbone. It's time to let others experience the real you. And it's time for you to experience the freedom of not having to be perfect for everyone. As you do, you'll find that relationships become more reciprocal, respectful, and fulfilling. You'll no longer be living in quiet desperation, but in open, honest connection. And that, truly, is what will make both you and your future partner deeply happy. So go on. Break free from the nice guy trap. Be kind, be you, and know that that is enough. You've got this, and you're not alone on the journey.